Hello, class. Today we're talking about lesson 3.6, how to sketch functions from verbal descriptions. Okay? So, what we're going to kind of be doing this section, we just want to break down what that title says, right? So, think about sketch. What does sketch really mean to you guys? Well, for those artists out there, we know sketch kind of means to draw, right? But not really to draw super formally. This isn't our final draft, it's kind of like a first draft. Now, functions, that's a real important one. Hopefully, we all remember the definition of a function. Think about it for a second. All right, if you're thinking that a function is a rule that assigns each input to exactly one output, then you're correct. And lastly, from verbal descriptions, or basically someone telling us something, right? Okay, so our key concept for today. So we can sketch a graph of a function from a verbal description. We can do this by paying attention to words that describe things like a positive slope, meaning my function is increasing, a negative slope, meaning my function is decreasing, or maybe not moving, commonly known as remaining constant. So we'll have to pay attention to certain phrases in a word that's going to clue us into these things here. All right, so let's get a little example here. And so Danica is sketching her ski trip. So she starts on the chairlift going up to the top of the ski run. So since she's going up, do you think my slope should be increasing or decreasing? Hopefully you guys are thinking increasing, right? Which is why Danica draw a line going up there. Now, when she's at the top of the run, waiting to ski down, her altitude's not changing, right? So that's where we would be constant for a little bit. We'd remain flat. And lastly, when she's skiing down the run, that's going to be a very quick trip to the bottom, right? It's going to be a faster descent than when she ascended to the top on the ski lift. So it'd be a very steep decreasing function. All right, so that's our first little example right there. Now let's go into doing one on our own. So a baker already has made 10 cakes. She can make the same number of cakes an hour, which she will do for 5 hours. Sketch the function. All right, so my y-axis here is going to be the number of cakes, and my x-axis is going to be time. So here, let's break these out into some hours, okay? Let's do some hours here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then going up here, let's do these cakes here. Let's count by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. We'll do it like that. Okay, so since she's starting at cakes, I want she started with cakes. She started with 10 cakes. I want my line to start on the y of 10 because she already has 10 cakes, right? Now, if she makes she makes the same number of cakes an hour, I want to make sure that I am increasing at a constant rate here. And she said she's doing this for 5 hours. So I want to increase at a constant rate for 5 hours here, okay? Now that she's done making those 5 cakes, she's done making cakes, what can we think is going to happen to our line after that? Is it going to decrease, go back down? Well, think about it. Is she going to lose the cakes she's already made? Doesn't say anything about her eating them or her selling them, right? So since she's not making cakes for the rest of the day here, I left off on the wrong one. I should be right here. Since she's not making cakes for the rest of the day here, we're going to remain constant going forward, just constant. She's not making more cakes, but she's not going to have less cakes either. So it's going to increase for those 5 hours. She's making the same number of cakes each hour and then remain constant after that. Now, the reason we're saying it matters that she makes the same number of cakes each hour is because we don't want to have a graph that looks like this, starting at 10 and then has a weird slope going up and then remains constant. We want to make sure we show that her making the same number of cakes each hour is a linear function. All right, next one here. When a laptop first became available, the sales were high the first week. They decreased over the next 2 weeks before remaining steady for 2 weeks and then began to slightly increase the following week. All right, so our laptop sales, think about it. Before a laptop was for sale, they couldn't sell anything, right? So we're going to have to start at 0 here. So the sales are high the first few weeks, right? Meaning I am going to want to increase pretty steeply for a little bit here. They increased, right? They were high the first week. Now, since they're decreasing over the next 2 weeks, again, we want to start pointing down here, right? Because we're decreasing now. We're decreasing. Now, remaining steady for 2 weeks. Do you guys think remaining steady would be an increasing, decreasing, or constant function? Hopefully, you guys are thinking constant here, and I would agree. And it's going to stay constant for 2 weeks. And then lastly, it says it increased, the following week, but not as much as the beginning, right? So I would want to have a real gradual slope for that thing. So that's the graph I drew for this function. When sales first started, it was selling really high. They had a lot of sales, so I have a very steep increasing function. Next, it decreased over the next 2 weeks, so we want to start gradually heading down there before remaining steady or constant for 2 weeks. And then lastly, it increases slightly the following week. The one key point on this right here is I want you guys to notice that this part of the line right here is not as steep as this part of the line right here. Even though they're both increasing, the last week was a slight increase, where the beginning, the sales were very high. So the beginning of my graph should have a steeper slope than the end of my graph. Alrighty, everybody. So all I need from you now is 2 complete sentences about what you learned today, 2 complete sentences about what you learned. If you have any questions, make sure to bring them to class tomorrow, and I'd be happy to answer them. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Peace out.